presses. We're trying to get some budgetary numbers on those. The blowers for the sludge basins. We know we've got some homework to do. We probably should, if you look at the numbers here on the operating funds, and if we have reserves to speak of for the plan, we're behind the curve on funding for this department. I think that's an accurate statement. We probably should have looked at doing something like this a little bit earlier to stay out in front of some of these bigger expenses we're going to see. I just don't want you to look at what we've got going. This is a minimum increase. If we get ARPA funding, fantastic. That's certainly what we hope for. But this increase is still very much needed. If we could get ARPA funding for the whole project, we would still need this income moving. Because we still owe, I think, $2 million
Just under,
on the 2012 project. So it's we don't make these recommendations lightly. We don't want to raise rates. I mean, that's not ideal. We want to keep costs as low as we can. But if it gets to a point where we have to, and I certainly think we're doing this. Staff has done a fantastic job to keep costs on this project down as low as we can. I think they were just able to put another $30,000 into our contingency bucket just through the last week. Jim took some fiber out. We're doing some stuff internally. Only changed some controls and saved about $8,000. So we continually, I just want everybody to know that we work hard, that this rate increase isn't taken lightly. And we do everything we can to try to get these projects done for the lowest cost possible.
When was the last increase?
January of 13, I think.
And if I remember back to the public meeting we held, even with this increase, we would be in the lower 50% of cost for similar communities.
Correct.
Right. So,
Were you able to get a hold of anybody?
I left a message. I'm hoping to get a phone call. It'll happen before the end of the day, hopefully. Yeah, I left a message. What's that?
Bishop, man.
No, I don't think the Cardinals bill is
Very little.
Very low.
Oh,
Their water usage is really kind of the largest water customer by far. Their water usage jumped up quite a bit last year.
Yeah, I mean, I just looked at their prior year. But their prior year, they're up 8.5 million gallons versus the year before. And the year before that, they're up 15 million gallons. So they've increased quite a bit. So I just looked at the prior year numbers to kind of get an estimate on their increase.
With the 7.5% electric credit, they're going to be about where they were at before that.
Be a wash.
So it's going to be, when it's not, their costs are really not going up over what they have been before. So, which we feel pretty good about because we think we're going to be able to hopefully keep that credit on the electric part for some time. So, but no, I still think it is. This is out of courtesy.
Yeah.
But no, I have left a message. And we'll have a conversation.
And this would go into effect if it was passed in October. So then customers would see it on their November bill for October.
no, it takes a while. Unfortunate. Yeah. Where we live. Cross gloves sometimes.
What's that?
Macon.
Oh, Macon. Yeah, I tried to find another community that had a ConAgra. Macon did, yeah. And like I said, their current rate is what? Ours is going to. Now, their fixed charge is lower, but if it's like 21, and ours is 28.50, so, but our residents pay 28.50, common area pays 28.50 fixed charge, so.
This goes to council for approval. I believe so, right?
Yes,
Yes.
it will need council approval before going into effect.
We'll put it on for Monday night.
I talked to Julie yesterday, because I was driving to Jeff City to see if it was on there. But I believe so, yeah. I haven't got my council packet yet, so I couldn't tell you if it was in there.
Tell me, is there any way to step this up? Step it? Do 10 now and 5 in January, is that gonna kill us?
I mean, we can look at doing that, if that's what you guys are comfortable doing.
You know, it's a 50% increase, and I understand we need it and everything, I didn't know if that was a possibility or not.
I mean, we can, if you guys aren't comfortable making that increase right now, I can bring something back. Sedalia went through something similar in 2010, that they saw a 300% increase in one rate increase. So the residents are it is a 64% increase in our usage, but overall utility bill for residents only going up 14%. So now that industrial customers, obviously with their consumption, that's going to be a little different. But
As far as increases go, this is not.
it's very minimal.
It's very minimal.
But I mean,
when you look at other, I've seen, and we can provide data, we don't have, but I think you gave a good example of the one in Sedalia. There's been others that have been at 100%, and that's what happens when you fall too far behind before long. DNR comes in, and we're not looking at that now, but I don't want to look at that
I mean,
later either.
Boonville's rate's 0.824. So I think we're still low for our community.
Yeah, they just had an increase. I don't know what the percentage of it was.
I mean, we haven't increased since 2013, so
We probably should have did one not too long after that to
Right.
prepare for this, really.
Right.
we did do our due diligence and have meetings and try and involve everybody, live stream our meetings and bringing everything to light.
And I haven't received any questions as far as concerns about a rate increase, or I don't think Jeff has either. But
I haven't.
We reached out to ConAgra to
For the process of that.
just talk to them.
Right.
And explain it to them. If they have questions.
You know, you could do it twice, see, but at the end of the day, I think we know we need something. We're recommending what really is a minimum at this time.
We all know we need it, and then we know that it's the minimum that we can do. I think what Steve's concern is the pushback that we're gonna get from certain council members, that to lessen the blow a little bit, maybe stair step.
Steve,
Not that I agree with it, it's just,
what was your time frame? You have a time frame in mind, that stepping a little bit now, a little bit after the first of the year, or?
Yeah, that was, but it doesn't really fix or solve it. You know?
I mean, if there's council members that are concerned, I mean, we can look at doing that, but I haven't received any questions or concerns from any council members about the rates
We've been talking about it for a while.
since June. I mean, whatever y'all's decision, I'm more than happy to bring back, I can bring
We're
back
just putting
numbers.
off the inevitable. I get what you're saying, and I don't know, like I say, I haven't spoken to the council. It doesn't change the fact that we should have done this, we should have had a rate increase years ago, we're behind, this is the minimum. That we would recommend.
Tell me if I'm wrong, if we would do this step, there's a possibility we have to do 3 increases.
If those ARPA funds didn't
Yeah,
come
it's
through.
our fund.
For sure, another one.
Yeah, is that right?
I would, my estimate is if we don't get any ARPA funding, we're gonna have to do another one, not as much, by half, another
Next year,
6, 7
Next
cents
year,
more.
probably sometime, if we find out the ARPA funds.
And we're, the ARPA's complicated. I mean, it's not, nobody's knows a lot about it. I was in Jeff City yesterday and, I'm trying to figure it out. Every time I go down there, I try to find somebody that hopefully knows a lot more than I do. I'm working with some people to find out some different things. I'm optimistic and hopeful we can get $6 million. That's really, would be huge.
But even regardless if we got that, we still need a rate increase.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
well, if we got 9 million, we still owe 2 million
We're still behind.
on a project we did 8 years ago, and we're getting ready to,
Spend another 9.
and we have no reserves. I mean, we don't, we keep having, we can have 3 loans at the same time. And I really, we're just playing, we're playing behind it. We're behind it. We're not where we need to be. And I think when you get behind, you certainly don't want to get in a position like today. I had a 300% increase or something like that. Like I say, this is percentage-wise, on the volume charge. But I think what you said the percentage was when you look at the base, include the base rate,
14%.
14%. Overall, it's a 14% residential increase. The average is 41.98. The world we're in today is pretty low. And there's people that have $80, $90 sewer bills monthly.
Still at that, we're probably a little less than average on our sheet, where everyone else is paying.
Well, and I'm hopeful if we can get this passed, get ARPA funding, we would be in good shape for a long time as far as, maybe we can make another 7, 8, 9 years before we have to look at another one. That's, we don't have these every year. I mean, it's a, every so often process, and our costs go up just like everybody else's sewer pipe. I mean, this was just paid for plants, this paid for manholes, sewer pipe, and, anything, everything on the sewer system.
We haven't taken this lightly, but I'll make a motion to approve a 50% increase in wastewater usage rates from 0.235 per 100 gallons to 0.385 per 100 gallons beginning with the October 2021 bill.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve a 15% increase in the wastewater usage rate from 0.235 per 100 gallons to 0.385 per 100 gallons, beginning with October 2021 billing. All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, guys. Other than that, I got the financials in there for July. It's kind of the same things over and over, but really, I think our electric department, for the 10 months, we're showing a $2.7 million loss, but 2.6 million of that is expense related to the power plant. Our overall electric usage is up 1 million kWh from last year. So we're doing good there. I think last year I had budgeted for a $145,000 loss, and that was with the power plant being decommissioned, being on the balance sheet side, not on the income statement side. So right now we're at about $100,000 loss. So we're doing, I think, better than anticipated on the electric side. Other departments are, I think, are doing well. On the cash side, our operating funds decreased by 280,000 over June. Really, the reserves decreased 175,000, which a big chunk of that decrease is related to the Burns McDonald payment for 233,000 for phase 2 of the wastewater plant. So, like I said earlier, our operating of the wastewater is at 328 for July, and then the 233 that we paid Burns I pulled that out of the reserve fund for the wastewater, so that dropped. We had 300-some thousand in the prior month. On the GenSet funding, there's no change. I'll update that once I get the information from OPEP and when it gets credits and that reconciled, and I'll do that transfer over those funds for the reimbursement. Other than that, I think everything.
So it seems our electric department's just running at a break even.
What's that?
Our electric department's running at a break even.
Right now, yeah, we're a little bit under for the year, but pretty much break even. And right now, we're not putting, like I said, I think I made a comment up there that we're not putting any money in reserves in electric, internet, or gas. So those are 3 funds that we're not putting reserves in right now. But I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
What are the Rimco funds for the city? Where do those come from again?
Right now, they're coming out of electric operating.
The operating funds for electric.
There's probably $1 million outstanding on that still.
Yeah. So,
And we made the last payment
to Aaron's in the disbursements, yeah. That's the final payment. So.
How much do we have out the loans and other departments?
It was like 3 million something, up for 3, I think, between water and wastewater. They're about evenly split between the 2
Don't do another 3.
for wastewater.
to, it'll be up
That's
to,
the plan.
it'll be up to 5, almost 5, if we get ARPA funding. So, and then we've got probably 3 or 4 million more. We're gonna turn around, filter presses and the blowers and those sludge basins are all vintage, early 90s stuff too. It's, about the end of its life. It's just, that's how you buy mechanical equipment and you maintain it the best you can. And I think Nolan's group has done fantastic. This stuff runs a lot. It's not in the best environment. Wastewater environments are not the best environments for mechanical equipment. They're corrosive. You get water in places where you shouldn't have water. And you get this many years out of what's down there.
So essentially, we got, we'll say 5 million.
The wastewater,
6 million. So we have to have reserves for what we have insured.
yeah, the payment right now, wastewater makes back to electric for the loan. The current loan is like $24,000 a month. So,
But just on whole numbers. We got 5 mil out in the loan, 6 million that we need for minimum insurance reserve, so that leaves us with 3 million. That's it.
Before we're below that requirement.
on the, you're looking at just electric fund? Electric fund.
The reserve fund.
Oh, correct.
Yeah, the total.
And-
Take out everything we've got, and we take that 6 million out that we really can't touch.
And that's,
We got 5 million out there, we got 3 million left.
and we, that's why we cashed the $2.5 million investment on natural gas, is so we can use that cash for loans, to fund. some of these projects. Because cash is investment right now, it's not making anything, so to me, it's more valuable to use that money to loan,
Well, it's cheap, much cheaper on us.
internal loan, right,
Save us money.
Saves us money.
Paying ourselves.
right,
But I mean, what I'm saying is we're getting really, really low
very, yeah,
in our reserve funds. I think people are looking at the total operating funds and the total funds, and they don't realize that operating funds is a moving target that goes away every month.
right.
So they're sitting here looking at us like we got a ton
Well,
of
I
money
think-
that there's not, it's not there.
No.
It's one transformer blow up for being nothing.
Well, in a 6-month time frame, we dodged over $2 million worth of bullets. Count February, Winter Storm Uri, the flood at the treatment plant. That's just in a very short period. That's the utility business.
Well,
That's why we
took
have
care of our
reserves.
gen sets and was able to
Absolutely.
generate and saved a ton of money doing that. This would be zero.
It would, yeah,
You're right.
It would be zero. We would have no reserves left.
February would have went the opposite.
Like it did in
Even
some,
if-
like it did in some.
For a lot of communities,
Oh,
correct.
absolutely. Even if we would take care of that thing in tip-top shape, there was still a chance it could start. I mean, it's a lot of moving parts and stuff in there. But we dodged over $2 million worth of, fortunately, FEMA's declared we get 75% reimbursement on the wastewater. We're still going to, have $500,000 worth of damage. We're still $160,000 of it's got to come out of our pocket, potentially.
Have you heard any more from FEMA?
Yeah, it's, I'm working on the paperwork now. I've started, submitting all that stuff, and, working that direction, but it's 75% reimbursement. So, if you're on $500,000 worth of damage, there's still $160,000 coming out of our pocket potentially. It's just, it's hard, people don't understand how quick things can happen and change in the utility business, whether it's a transformer like Steve mentioned, or the retail power market or the wholesale power market, in SPP and MISO, those markets are very volatile. And just the exposure there to be, that's what happened in February. So, you can look at this and yes, it's misleading, very misleading. I
It's
appreciate
misleading, and I think people are reading it as they want to read it.
Right.
They're looking at $29 million thinking, oh, there's all kinds of money there. There's not money there.
They're looking at the bottom right, that's all they see.
Right.
Not everything else goes into it.
Well, and if you look at the bottom right, 623,000, that's not even all, that's deposits.
Yeah,
I mean, having reserves and funds to take care of capital improvements and get through things that you have to deal with in the utility industry is fiscal responsibility. And that's what I believe we have a very good history of doing in the utility. People look at it as like, they got a lot of money, but we've got our customers' money to spend on infrastructure and things that we need to do to provide that service. And the rates we charge for it, I think are, as you've seen, are below average. And
For a very reliable system.
I think our staff does we've got some great staff here that puts a lot of effort into making a great service out of what we do.
Anything else, Tony? You have a question?
yeah,
Tony?
I got a question.
Thank you for everything.
Thanks, Tony.
That pause was anything to do with.
Oh, no, I know. It's a big decision.
It's tough, yeah.
Something we don't take lightly either.
Thanks, Tony. Let's move on to electric production with Carl. Hi, Carl.
Good morning, gentlemen. As you can see, 10 and 11, we got the battery bank replaced. All that's up, working good. Did some work on the exhaust fans over there. Bucket truck down the miscellaneous has been repaired. There's a EMC or something there, electronic module or something. And I believe that we're pretty well done with those intakes, getting those painted. for Unit 6. It's ran once, 10/11 ran yesterday too, is after this, so it's ran several times in September. Other than that, submitted our semi-annual, Part 70 operating permit compliance and monitoring report. And, that's about all I have unless anybody's got any questions.
Drove out the fire the other day, it's looking good out there.
It is, it's,
Really is, yeah.
we've got plenty of fill there. I think Grant was hoping we'd have a little more, but we're trying to get just the area where they're gonna put the fence across.
Yeah.
And that'll be just, going west from where that double gate is by the recycle building. So we're trying to get that area filled in for them to come. Hopefully they'll be here within the next week or two to put that in for us.
Looking nice.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll get some grass to grow on. More mowing.
I have any other questions for Carl? Thank you, Carl. Wastewater, Nolan?
Morning. Don't have a lot to add. We did get our inspection report back from DNR. There were actually 3 letters of warning. One was a numeric value on some results of a couple years ago. A timely test result on that wet test that I was supposed to do last year that I did this year, and some other reports that they said that they hadn't gotten. So I'm been working on sending those to them this week, but other than that, I have a lot to add unless you guys have any questions.
Find all your valves.
I think so. And I talked to Grant some about that right after the race. So it's up to some of it.
I was just gonna ask whether there's a way. Is that something we just do annually or
Yeah.
as needed or?
Well, it's actually about every 2 years, but it's been probably 3 since the last time we've done it. One of those valves was put in during the 2012-13 project. All it's for is a fire hydrant. There was that one and a valve to the gym set building for the water there. It's below the gauge and we raised up. There was one close to the effluent reuse cascade area. There's just a handful that we had to find. The rest was so what there's some guys that from there that hadn't seen them. So at least everybody knows where everything's at.
How's the permit renewal going with Kim Mack?
She actually got with Burns and Mac and got information based off of with the construction coming up. There's some questions in that application for that. I paid most all of our input effluent numbers sent to her. We actually have a conference call with the Hughes. Just kind of go over some stuff.
Moving right along.
Any questions for Nolan? Thanks, Nolan. Move on to water treatment, Travis?
Morning. Morning. Not a whole lot to add, other than what's in the packet, but you have to answer any questions that you may have. Because I am back to full staff again, so this week, so makes things a little easier. So,
No news is good news. Any other questions for Travis? Thank you. Underground, Grant?
Morning, gentlemen.
Hey.
Morning. Just a couple of things, Dan. We did get our report back from DNR. We did have one satisfactory. It was on the air release. There's 37 of them from here to Malden. It was an issue with the way the release are vented. It's not going to be a costly fix. We should have that knocked out in a week, and then we'll report back to DNR, get that cleaned up. Other than that, South Jefferson Street sewer's a little slow. There was a issue with a storm sewer that ran across top of our main and they were touching. And we ended up having to remove the storm sewer to get our pipe in and then we put it back. So we kind of got stymied there in one spot for a week or so. But, we got past it and everything's good now. Other than that, that's all I had. Unless you have any questions.
Questions, for Grant? Thank you. Jim?
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
We've got one action item, the bids for the trailer. As you can see, we were looking about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, and they supposedly had 3 on the lot for 23,000. Those are all gone by now, and pretty much have to order a new one, which means new steel prices, which means the price went way up. So, there's some potential. We could look around, see if we can find another one on a lot somewhere. Tennessee's got some advertised, but it's probably the same deal where they're advertised but already gone. So it looks like probably the best option is just go ahead and bite the bullet and get one of the new ones in the queue for being manufactured. We probably could save a couple $100 to pick it up ourselves, but that'd be roughly January timeframe. And, I'm not sure what Grant's guy's workload is. Brian would probably be the one that have to go get it, so we'd have to rely on having free time to do that. And probably easiest just go ahead and make sure we lock in that price for $850 for the delivery. So our recommendation for now is to approve the low bid with the delivery.
Refresh my memory, were we just not ready for it in July?
Well, we had to go out for bids,
Okay.
so by the time, wait a month to get the bids out and hand back in and all that. And we're not expecting the plow until summer of next year, so 4 months isn't a big deal.
I make a motion to accept the bid of highway trailer sales, Kansas City for $34,065.
Second.
Motion to accept and second to accept the low bid of $34,065 from Highway Trailer Sales, Kansas City, Missouri. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Thank you. As you can see, you've got a picture of Coleman Plumbing contractor working on Lark. They finished that in about a day and a half. They have started on Ladder Avenue, got about 1,000 feet down Ladder Avenue out of about 5,000 or 6,000 total on Ladder. That was middle of the afternoon yesterday, probably a lot farther along today. So that Ladder was going to be farther down the list, but road district's planning on paving that pretty quick, so we decided we better jump on that before they paved it and make it a lot harder. My guys are working on YY. That's not part of the grant. That's just from Atchison down to the creek there. That's just wasn't part of the grant, but it's kind of included there in the heading. But we're about a third of the way done on YY. Other than that, just lots of odds and ends.
So are you pleased with the way things are going with Coleman and
Yeah, I think it's nice that we've got a local guy. He knows the guys that do the locates for the phone and the guy that does locate for the water. So he's able to work with them a lot easier than somebody from out of town would be. There's a few issues we're working through to figure out the best way to do things. And, but yeah, I think overall it's going pretty well so far. On Lark, we had 5 customers we passed, and we've already had our first complaint. They didn't like the ugly eyesore in the yard, but made some accommodations for them. So we're 20% rate of complaints. But for the most part, I think everybody else is happy to have it.
So, well, I appreciate all the grant work you did and everything you did to get all this going. It's going to very much benefit MMU in the long run. And thank you for the headaches that you went through to make this happen.
Yeah, we're still got a long way to go, but yeah, finally seeing some movement.
They touch on this yesterday, the Jeff City.
We did.
Our capabilities versus some other.
We did. I did provide some testimony, kind of some background on how we started in the broadband business. And he was dialed up at the time or nothing. You know, but just, that was basically the testimony was provided just to let the state know the importance of allowing municipals to get into this business and remain in this business. And I think it went well. So I think we're to the point now we should promote what we sell, or they're to the point legislatively that we should promote what we've got in this area. Gentleman from Houston, Missouri was down there yesterday, and they're just starting fiber. And, they're starting to promote it as, you know, living in the rural area and having that rural lifestyle, but still being able to work from home and do some of those other things. And I think that's you know, something we need to take advantage of moving forward. But broadband is a huge topic right now, especially in rural areas. I think the pandemic's really brought it. I mean, it was needed before, but the pandemic just really kind of sent home the issue that needs to be put into these areas.
Any other questions, Jim? Thank you, Jim. HR, Megan?
Morning.
Wait,
I have a couple updates on health benefits. I think I mentioned at the last meeting that we were gonna try to get some carriers to provide a GRX underwritten quote, which means they look at prescription drug usage. Have since learned that when you go to carriers for proposals, they always look at your renewal. And it turns out our renewal was above a certain threshold under which they will do the GRX underwriting. So we have asked everybody to do the online easy apps, to update the information in that system, which will enable us to get underwritten responses. Again, I'm not real hopeful, but we're gonna do our due diligence, and if we can get somebody to close something even close, maybe we can at least get, and I don't care, sharpen the pencil, we'll see what happens, so. And we are, doing some interviews for general maintenance meter reader and underground. And other than that, I just wanted to visit with you a little bit about the COVID emergency paid sick leave policy. There's kind of a recap of how we got where we are in the packet on that. I'm not gonna bore you with that unless you have questions about it. But do want to make you aware, we've been discussing this issue. You know, we need to remain in a ready state to keep the workplace safe and be prepared for folks to have to miss work due to COVID. I looked yesterday and it's kind of been running there, but yesterday versus 1 year ago, it's 200% increase, or pardon me, 300% increase over where we were at 1 year ago in the number of active cases. So I don't think we're going to see this issue go away this fall. We need to stay ready to respond to that. We feel like this emergency paid sick leave policy has been very key in being able to handle those absences. They don't occur because an employee wants to take off. They occur because we tell an employee they can't be here, or the health department tells them they can't be here, or a school or daycare calls out of the blue and says your kid can't be here. So there are things outside employees' wants that are driving this. So we feel this policy is key. We do third-party verification whenever this leave is utilized. We will be asking the board to, right now it's set to expire September 30th. We will be asking you guys, next board meeting as an action item, to extend that to December 31. We can see where we're at that point. I want to emphasize that will not give anyone any additional leave. What that will do, people who have not used that leave, or all of that leave, it will leave that sitting there in case they do have issues come up in the next few months. There is a little bit of information in your packet about our balances and kind of the timeline, page after my section there. Timeline that we've seen the usage, that first chart, you can see that over a quarter of employees have 100% of what we've made available still sitting there unused. Another quarter of employees have use less than 25% of that, so. And hopefully those folks don't have to in these months coming up, but I think we need to stay prepared. And then that second chart's just kind of by pay period where we've seen usage, and it kind of, those spikes kind of correspond with spikes we've seen in the community, so kind of a logical pattern there. I think early on, when the schools up and closed, when the whole thing first started, that's when we saw a lot of the leave for childcare needs, and I think we saw last summer and in the fall, there seemed to be more abrupt daycare closures than we're seeing now, so I think all those folks have found different methods to deal with these things, but some we do feel is important to continue to keep available. So just wanted to get that out there to you this meeting in case you got any questions, give you a little more time to think about it so you know what's coming up. And other than that, I don't think I have got anything to add.
I have a question, just a clarification for me.
Yes.
On page 2 of the COVID emergency paid sick leave policy, paragraph, on page 6, please. So originally we started out with 80 hours and then we doubled it.
That's correct. Yes, we gave 2 weeks, and that kind of corresponded with the federal legislation that was passed
That's
to
what I
require
understand,
that.
and we decided to.
Yeah, and
go
in
beyond that.
December, we decided to add an additional 2 weeks.
I guess my question is, if we decide to continue it, is it feasible to go back to the original 80 hours rather than 160?
So would you be, well, you all make the decisions, number one, but would you be proposing to drop everybody that's over 80 hours to 80 hours? And if somebody's just got 20 left, they stay sitting at 20, is that what you mean?
I would just. Yeah, pretty much.
That is possible. My only, don't keep me out of here for saying this, I just think about fairness and people who have got you've got a few people who've had to use that entire 4 weeks. You got a few people that have used half of it. The folks that have not used that much, you would be taken away from them. And if one of them should come up into a situation in these coming months, significant illness due to it or what have you, and not have the benefit of the same amount of time that somebody before them received, I don't think that would be very fair. But again, you all are making the decisions.
We got a lot to talk about. Well, I thought they wanted to answer the next board.
Request be extended.
Ends at the end of September.
We have one more meeting. Still. No, we've got one more meeting on the 30th.
Thank you.
I hate to bring it up because it's so polarizing, but the policy says that the policy does not distinguish between vaccinated and unvaccinated. But doesn't the CDC vary between vaccinated and unvaccinated?
On some things they do, and some things they don't. And I think that's probably what the blue side did, not you. If someone has a close contact exposure, they are not required to quarantine. They changed that a couple months ago. They're not required to quarantine for the 10 days if they're vaccinated, if they're fully vaccinated within the past. I can't remember if it's 3 or 6 months. I have to look, but in other areas they don't distinguish. They're still, they've gone back to the masking for the vaccinated indoors. And You know, we've got somebody right now that's tested positive, that's vaccinated. We've got somebody that used to work here that was vaccinated and got it time to break down of the active cases, how many were vaccinated. And 25% of the active cases were vaccinated, fully vaccinated. And that number on its own would make you think, you know, maybe we do need to be thinking about that. But at that time, roughly 30% of the county was vaccinated. So 30% of the population was vaccinated and 25% of the active cases were vaccinated. So there again, you've got data that I don't support differentiating based on vaccination status.
Well,
There's too much we
another
don't know about
factor
it at this point.
making is
I'm
that
sorry.
you have people who get the shots and they get deathly ill and they're ill for a week or more.
Yes,
Even being back, the shot itself makes them that sick.
yes.
It's something I think we need to consider.
And that is something that our policy currently does provide for. They can use that time to get vaccinated. They can use that time to recover from illness caused by the vaccine.
Well, I got the third shot and she had been down 10 days. She couldn't go to work. See today or
Yes, next meeting.
Okay. Anything else for Megan?
okay.
Hey, Jeff?
Morning, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hopefully, this is not too difficult. I do have an action item. Natural gas operation and transportation agreement with Missouri Energy. We had, when our natural gas line was originally built, we entered into agreement for operation, transportation, and capacity on that line with MMU. That was 2004. Well, those rates are 17 years old, and we've seen increases in our USDI contract to maintain that line. I mean, our costs have just gone up. So, in order to recover those, Tony and I've kind of come up with the rates that you guys see there. I have talked to MME; they are in agreement with it. What I'm waiting on now is the contract. We'll have to have a contract amendment update because Josh Taylor's working on that. So I don't know. Hopefully we'll have that here in the short term. I know it's been a couple weeks since I sent it over to him. And as was in the original agreement, I think we're good with doing the rates that's shown here for a term of 5 years. And this will generate about $75,000 to $80,000 more in annual revenue.
Thank you for getting all this going and getting it done. 8.5 years ago, we finally got something going. So,
The actual impact is much less than the immediate knee-jerk reaction numbers that were thrown out originally. I mean, they were preposterous at that time.
Right.
You know, this is more manageable.
I think this is fair. Tony did a really good job laying out all the numbers, the depreciation, our expenses over the years in the line. I shared that with them, and when they looked at it, they're like, they appreciated the transparency and the detail that we gave them, showing why we needed this increase. And this is, yeah.
We appreciate MME as a customer and for the jobs they provide in the community. And, you know, we're not trying to hurt them, but we need to. 17 years is a long time.
Well, we need, we need to make sure we're covering our costs. We don't want to subsidize them either, and I think that's
Right.
I think this is very fair where we're at here.
And,
For
and a
everybody.
5-year term is very fair as well.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve increasing fixed monthly transportation, reservation, and transportation commodity charges for natural gas transportation to Mid-Missouri Energy as presented for a term of 5 years beginning with the October 21 bill.
Been a motion and second to approve increasing the fixed monthly transportation reservation and transportation commodity charges for natural gas transportation to Mid-Missouri Energy as presented for a term of 5 years beginning with the October 2021 bill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen. And I don't know if this will need to go to council or not. I'm also waiting to hear back from Josh Taylor on that as well. There's a potential that it could, but, just wanted to make you aware of that, that's something else I'm working on. Not a whole lot in the miscellaneous. There was discussion on virtual ownership. Really after Winter Storm Uri, a lot of the pool's resources didn't show up. A lot of the smaller utilities that have resources don't necessarily have generation resources, don't have the resources to properly maintain them. And that really hurt the pool as a whole. We were one of the few that was able to show up. Had everybody that was on the book showed up, it would have been no cost to anybody. We would have broke even on the deal. The pool would have broken even. We still would have come out ahead like we did, but the pool would have broke even. So there's some discussion moving forward as how to better maintain these resources. Some of them, if they're old enough, they may get, not capacity credits and not be included in the fleet moving forward. But so they formed a committee to discuss that. I volunteered to be on that committee, kind of get involved with that. I think it's a good thing. That's virtual ownership. It's not something we're looking at doing. It may be something that we may be able to help out with as far as maintenance. If there's units in this area that would need maintenance and be taken care of by the pool, there might be something we can help with. So I just want to be involved in that. I think we've got a lot of expertise and staff that what helps the pool helps us, and that's the mentality you have to have. Obviously, we want to take care of our stuff. If there's things we can do to help the pool that we're reimbursed for, there's benefit there as well. We're working through the contract with Burns McDonald. Staff was, as I mentioned earlier, able to knock almost another $30,000 off the contract price and put it into our contingency bucket. I should have that ready to sign this morning. Brian was going to send it over. We finally gotten all the changes made. So moving forward there. Multi committee, dividend, our portion of the pool resources. These are transmission and demand. It's not energy. It did drop slightly from 7.2 to 7%. That won't have a huge impact, but it will help us out just a little bit there. So moving in the right direction. Also working with MPUA to set up a peer review. Had some conversation with you yesterday when I was at the Capitol. We'll have a call again today. Got to get that set up and get that moving. There's no cost for that. I think it's a good thing to have your peers come in and look at how you're doing your job. I think I'm not too proud to think I can't benefit from it. We can get some direction. If we can do a better job, then that's what we need to do. So kind of looking forward to that. They'll come in with staff and look at our finances, our reserves. Look to see we've got industry kind of follow industry practices or guidelines in a lot of those areas. So I think it may help some other people understand as well when this is done. Back up kind of what you talked about earlier.
We had something that said your reserve should be blah. I thought it was around 19 million.
6 months is typical, I think. They like to have 6 months of cash on hand.
So about what would that number be for us?
Well, for electric, our monthly disbursements run about a little under 2 million. So
It's about 12 million just on the way.
And we're showing 14, so
On 14 is a lot to take.
with a lot of
With a lot of it out.
with signing committee, correct? Yeah. So, yeah, no, I think that's gonna be a good thing to have, outside industry experts come in and work with us. We're gonna find, I mean, we're not perfect, there's gonna be some recommendations that we probably have. Hopefully there's a lot of things they look at and say, hey, you guys are, doing a great job. That's what I anticipate. I just think it's good, I have that opportunity. I don't know if utilities ever done anything like this, but I certainly think it's positive. There's really good people down there, been in the utility business a lot of years, that you need to look at as a resource and an opportunity to help you do the best you can for your community as far as utility goes. So that's about a 3 to 4 month process, so it's not anything we're gonna know about today or tomorrow. And it takes a while, it's kind of in depth, so just kind of want to let you guys know what we're heading on. Did go down and testify for the intern committee on broadband yesterday, that went pretty well. I think it's just, I think, they're looking at all the funding that's coming out now for broadband. And there's make-ready stuff on polls they want to talk about, joint use poll agreements, that type of stuff. They just, I think the state wants to know what they can do to help make it easier, not, put roadblocks and things like that that are going to prevent progress in getting broadband into underserved areas. So I left there with a pretty good feeling. I mean, I think they realize that it's not a one size fits all type of thing. Some of it's going to be private, some of it's going to be public. There was even some public-private partnerships. Springfield Utilities has got a public-private partnership. They're providing all the fiber and backbone, and then a private vendor is taking it from that point on and going to the customers. So there's a mix of things that are going on, and I think what needs to happen in each area depends on that area. And I think CenturyLink had a map up of Missouri and where they were at, where the underserved areas were at, and Saline County is as underserved as anybody. And that holds back our community. That holds back Marshall. Whatever we can do, I think we're a perfect example of what a municipal can do to build out the fiber system, and then expand that out, particularly with these grant monies. I mean, we couldn't have done it without grant monies. You're basically getting $8 million worth of infrastructure at no cost. Went pretty well. I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think we're at the point where we can start to promote what we have here and hopefully gain some attention and hopefully some economic development of some type.
Appreciate you going down to the hearing yesterday.
My suit's still good. Barely. Keep belts and suspenders. It's good to go down there and stay in touch and tune with what's going on. With our investment in the internet, we definitely want to stay involved as well. Want to help them as much as I can.
I agree.
Jeff, did we send any help to Louisiana? Did you know, I just wondered, somebody asked me.
I think Missouri did send some through,
Did Missouri did send some?
but I don't think, that's a tough call.
Yeah.
Especially when you're our size, some of the bigger utilities kind of send people. I know Macon wanted to, but I don't think they could with some of the stuff they had going on. And then you throw COVID into the mix. I think, you might be short-staffed when you get to.
Someone asked me the date, I wasn't quite sure, and I said I'd ask.
Yeah, we didn't get it.
They sent out I think, a standby
Stand by.
before the storm hit. That's typically when you respond. They try to line people up. If you know a hurricane's coming, don't wait till it hits and start calling. They give some commitments beforehand.
I mean, like seeing
What's that?
makes you just feel like you're back, as
one United States instead of United.
Yeah, mutual aid is a good thing.
Yeah.
Steve watching everyone work together.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Jeff? Let's move on to cash disbursements. What was that payment to DNR for? 14,000 to DNR?
That, I believe, was, it's an annual fee, I think, DNR.
Water department. Privacy fee.
The annual primacy
Single
fee,
privacy fee.
and that's going up.
Of course it is.
I got a letter,
Shocking.
I got a letter this last week that it's gonna go up about 10 grand, so.
Amen. That.
Last check there. So that's
That's nice to see.
They did a good job for
We
it.
did a good job.
Really good job. Our staff did a good job of getting out of their way. Carl and those guys worked pretty hard to move a lot of stuff in a very short period of time. I think you're still dealing with it too, yeah. Thanks for sending those out to us early too, Tom. That helps a lot.
Move to approve cash disbursement.
Second.
motion second to approve cash disbursements. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any other business for the good of the group? Next meeting will be Thursday, September 30th. Clear your calendars. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
Favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Good luck today, good boy.